Okay,
Good.
let me start. And
Yep.
good afternoon, Mr. Engman. And as you have read my email, I'm Eun-Jeung Lee, a PhD candidate at the Institute of Korean Study at Freie Universität Berlin. It's a great pleasure to finally meet you, and thank you very much for taking the time to join this today interview. And before we begin, I would like to address a little bit our research project, and this interview is part of our research project organized by the Korea European Center at Freie Universität Berlin and funded by Korea Developed Institute, KDI, in South Korea. As a part of this project, we are conducting a series of expert interviews with scholars across Europe. And this interview will be recorded with your permission, and it may be shared on our center's official YouTube channel later. So I would like to briefly introduce the background of our research. Over the past few years, our team has conducted a quantitative study on how Korea is perceived across the European countries. However, this year we decided to shift toward a qualitative approach, focusing on in-depth interview with leading scholars and experts. We wanted to go beyond the statistical trend to better understand the narrative, experience, and meaning that shape how Korea is represented and understood in various cultural and political contexts. So our current theme this year focused on public perceptions of Korea in Europe, especially how these perceptions are evolved over the time in relation to Korea's cultural presence and political development and academic representation. In this sense, we are truly honored to speak with you today as an expert on South Korea in Sweden. And personally, I'm very excited to hear about how you first became interested in researching Korea, maybe like also studying related to Korea. Could you tell us a little bit about how you first became interested in researching Korea?
Yes, sure. Maybe let's start in 2010, because that was the first time I visited South Korea. It was in conjunction with the anniversary of the re-liberation of Seoul, 1950 to 2010. And Sweden, as you know, as a member of the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission, was invited officially. And I was supposed to travel with our current, or then, Minister of Defense. And it ended up that I was the only one traveling because the minister had to cancel his trip in the last very minute. So I was part of the kind of VIP group for that celebration. I think it was a 2 or 3 day event with memorial services. In fact, we had a lunch at the Blue House, hosted by your president at that time. So that was my kind of first experience. And then at that time, I was head of the international department at the Armed Forces headquarters, and we got a request from your government to support capacity building at your National Defense University when it comes to peacekeeping operation. And I was kind of responsible for dealing with that request, and it ended up that we sent an instructor for 3 years that was permanently stationed in Seoul, working with your National Defense University, focusing on peace building training, or peace support operation training, I would say. I've always had, in my military background, a desire to go on foreign missions. And I knew, because of my engagement with the international department, that we had a Swedish general posted as head of the Swedish delegation to the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission. So I applied for that position because we have an open system in the Swedish Armed Forces where you can apply an interest for certain positions. And I was also very interested in, let's say, military strategic developments, especially in East Asia, because there was a lot of things happening when it comes to the rise of China, the conflict on the Korean Peninsula, etc. So I applied for the position, and I was selected by our chief of defense and then of the government. So that kind of my combined interest in a little curiosity, I would say, about South Korea and my interest on military strategic development and international operations kind of merged together. And once I was assigned as head of the neutral nations, the Swedish delegation, of course, I was posted to South Korea for a little bit more than 2 years, 2015 to 2017. So that, and you can understand my interest, and not only interest, but also understanding on the many factors related to the situation on the Korean Peninsula and in the region, I would say, kind of, grew exponentially during those 2 years. And as you sure know from your research, 15 to 17 was a very difficult, a lot of nuclear tests, there was a lot of missiles, there was a lot of things happening that both professionally very interesting, but also at the same time very kind of scary because of the it involved 3 nuclear powers, so, and a very rogue government. So that kind of set off an interest. And when I returned to Sweden, I was due to retire from active military service. And during my 2 years in South Korea, I had made contact with a Swedish research institute called the Institute for Security and Development Policy, which has had and still has a rather long standing relationship with North Korea and with South Korea, obviously. So they had a dedicated research program related to the Korean Peninsula and the region. And I was asked if I wanted to join them after my retirement. And so 1st of January 2018, I joined ISDP as a consultant because I had set up my own company. So to give me a little bit freedom to work with issues that I wanted to pursue as a retired officer. And most of that work was done within the framework of ISDP. And I still work with and for ISDP as a consultant. So I've been doing that since 1st of January 2018.
Wow, 2018.
So I have about depending on who you count, 10 or 15 years experience dealing with the Korean Peninsula.
Well, like it's been always interesting to hear from the experts and scholars how they get into and studies or research related to Korea. Also, 15 years ago, maybe you have not informed much about Korea, maybe just briefly news or defense matter wise. But all of a sudden you got involved with this project and visiting in 2010, and also 2 years staying in Korea made you more knowledgeable about South Korea. And building all this background, I'm curious how did you get this early interest and your stay in South Korea, and how could you because this research is rather more related to the public diplomacy and public perception in Sweden. So this is more general view, not about more specific matter. How did you only this interest and your visit in South Korea? Could you see how do I say the South Korea's presence in Sweden, for example, it has been maybe there has been nothing much about South Korea in Sweden earlier, when you first saw South Korea in 2010, and right now 2025, maybe it has been changed, soft power wise.
I think you are correct to say that in 2010, South Korea was not very present in, let's say, public Swedish discussion, neither on, let's say, the security side of things, or more generally politically, or on what we call soft power. But then there is a couple of, we have always had, as you may know, the presence of our engagement with the United Nations Supervisory Commission. That has been ongoing since August of 1953. But that has really not made the headlights, because other kind of military missions, like in the Middle East, Afghanistan and Mali, has always been, and on the Balkans, has always been considered more important, has been much more visible to the Swedish public than our mission in South Korea or on the Korean Peninsula. And so there's been a major shift when it comes to the awareness of South Korea and the awareness of the situation on the Korean Peninsula since 2010. And I would say there are mainly two major contributing factors to this. One is the general geopolitical development that has kind of focused a lot of attention on the situation of the Korean Peninsula, ranging from the three nuclear tests in 2016-17, the continued, rather advanced military buildup of North Korea with missile tests, ICBM tests, etc., etc. So that kind of has even made the headlines and become an interest for Swedish media. And I personally has been interviewed several times on Swedish national TV, newspapers, etc., when it comes to, let's say, geopolitical development. So that has kind of made South Korea move into sometimes mainstream media.
Okay. Then, like, this is something related to the political matter, broadcasted by Swedish media about South Korea, right?
Yeah.
And I want to also like hear your perspective on how general public in Sweden perceive Korea, like has been perceiving Korea, like what kind of image had behind about Korea. Like, could you say something about like related to general public's idea of Korea?
Yeah, but let me say that I mentioned there were two factors that kind of made South Korea to become much more present in Swedish society and Swedish media and among the general public. The first was the geopolitical aspect. The second one is what you could call K-pop, K-drama, the kind of soft and e-gaming. So these aspects of Korea has also made South Korea much more visible and present in Sweden. Because as far as I understand, first of all, it's a lot of young people in Sweden are very interested in e-gaming. So there is a lot of relations between people doing the same kind of interest in South Korea and in Sweden, because border doesn't matter. And also the whole music industry, there is a lot of Swedish young music writers that write music for K-pop. And you may don't know that, but Swedish music writers are really quite famous and are writing music to some of the most famous global artists.
Okay.
And
Those are like composers who creating even the pop musics.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and also, of course, now lately you had the what happened with the movie Parasite. That was really a big success in Sweden. And you have the Nobel Prize winner, the author Kang.
Yeah.
So those kind of things has made South Korea much more a topic, much more present in Sweden, and I think there has been a general growing interest about South Korea in Sweden because of the geopolitical development and also this soft power issues related to music, K-drama, literature, and also maybe on to mention food. So all these kind of issues has kind of, so there is, if I compare with 2010 to now, people in generally, especially young people, are much more aware and much more interested in Korea-related issues.
Probably like because also like you are researching related to Korea, like people might ask you, even though like you are more expert in defense matter, also like nuclear power and like some more political issues, like maybe even general publics or related to your relatives or like friend people, and then like might ask you Korea, and like they start to talk about like Korean culture and media education as well. Could you also like see some changes or like maybe like consumer products and restaurants and groceries in Sweden? Maybe you could encounter some Korean related like the product or consumers in daily life as well in Sweden, not only like online or like.
Yeah, there's been an increase in it's not a major increase, but it's been an increase in Korean restaurants in Sweden over the last 10 to 15 years. And there's also been a growing interest in generally in Korean food and those kind of things. But it's, I wouldn't say it's not a drastic or dramatic increase, but there is a growing interest, I would say.
Yeah, probably like most of other European big cities, there are like some Korean diasporas. They actually start to open Korean restaurant quite much because they see this kind of like soft power changes, and then they realize that it's quite lucrative businesses like to open the Korean restaurant because now like generally like the publics are there to consume the Korean food as you described. So, but probably the Democrat like the population wise, it might be like very difficult to like opening like bunch of Korean restaurants in Sweden, also in Stockholm as well. In Berlin now, like we have like 100 of Korean restaurants. Like it has changed. Like within 10 years, there was like 10 restaurants. Now we have like 100 Korean restaurants in Berlin.
Yeah. And as you say, I mean, Berlin is a much bigger city than Stockholm. But let's say in Stockholm in 2010 there were maybe 2, and now there are kind of 6, 7, 8. Here in Uppsala, we didn't have any, but about 2 years ago there was a Korean restaurant that opened, and there are some. It's not a lot, but there is there are several Korean South Korean students at Swedish universities, but that's more. It's not striking because I mean in modern modern university education, there is a lot of people moving from countries to country. You know, people from Italy studying in Sweden and Swedes studying in Tokyo, and so it's kind of, it's not a major, as far as I understand, it's not a major change. But there is South Korean students here in Uppsala University and also in other cities.
Yeah, like that's also interesting because I sometimes research about like migration of young Korean people to the European countries, and particularly Sweden and like other Scandinavian countries. Korean people like to go to study master degree in English because it's also very free education. And actually the intention behind there was like they want to settle down after their study in Scandinavian country or like European other countries. There was like a major movement from South Korean educated young people to European countries like these days. Yeah, okay. Like then like in your observation, like maybe like we deal with like politics, culture, also like some other matters like related to Korean issues. And do Swede people like perceive Korea like in this field positively or negatively? I know like this can be like very black and white question, but like, do you think like Korea is perceived as a like positive image, or sometimes like some feel negative?
No, I would say generally speaking, South Korea is viewed positively,
Mm,
or maybe even very positively.
mm,
And I think there is a, so I think generally speaking, there is people view South Korea as a, yeah, positively, and
mm,
it relates, um, yeah, uh,
mm,
and I think there is a, and this generally positive
mm,
sentiment is due to the fact that appreciation
mm,
of what South Korea, how South Korea has developed, from a
mm,
country really badly affected by war, uh,
mm,
in
mm,
a military dictatorship,
mm,
transferring into democracy, and the kind of
mm,
very rapid economic progress. So I
mm,
think with all the benefits of that economic transformation, so I think generally
mm,
speaking, it's positive. And
mm,
people
mm,
that are a little bit more informed, let's say
mhm,
a little bit more interest, also appreciate uh, what you contribute to when it comes to, if I say culture,
mhm,
literature, music, film, but also the kind of s- call it a little bit difficult security situation that South Korea is a kind of appreciation that at least there is one strong democracy in
mm,
this part of the
mhm,
world that is contributing to, or tries to contribute to
mm,
stability. But
mm,
I think I need to mention one aspect that also is part of, let's say, part of Swedish perception about South Korea,
mhm.
and that's adoption.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
So there was quite a lot of
Mhm,
adoptees from South Korea. I don't I don't have a figure on the numbers or the
mhm,
time frame,
mhm,
but this comes with two different
mm,
sets of emotions or reflection. One is,
mm,
let's say, the positive side, where
mm,
the Swedish families opening up
mm,
and receiving
mm,
adoptees from South Korea.
mm, mm,
And generally speaking, I think they consider that they have had a big a very positive upbringing in Sweden.
mm, mm,
But there is also, as you may know and understand, you always have
mm,
this the other side of adoption, that
mm,
people start asking questions about why was I left. Um,
mm,
I need to understand and look for my biological parents.
mm, mm,
And so it's a very, I don't know if I can fully understand, but I think
mhm,
that this is a very difficult and delicate and emotional side of things,
mm, mm,
looking for biological parents and
mm.
understanding why was I adopted.
This is like very interesting because also recently Korean broadcasting companies like National Broadcasting Company start to highlight and also invite the people adoptees from the Scandinavian country, also like northern part of the America, like structurally, economically, and like 1970s to 80s, there were a lot of adoptees like dispatched to the northern part of the America and Scandinavian countries, and they start to invite these young adoptees, like adult adoptees, to find the biological
Yeah.
parents actually. And this is a project of Korea because also they're kind of apologize to the past of historical like issues.
Mhm.
And then I was wondering, like you mentioned it, and how did you get to know this kind of like adoptee from the Korea? Like, did you see and watch the broadcast company in Sweden about
No,
this
no, no.
matter?
It's because I mean, with the kind of background I have, and I was invited to give a lot of presentations on development on South Korean, the situation on the South Korean peninsula. And we have in Sweden, we have two kind of association that try to promote South Korea-Swedish relations. One is very dedicated to, which is a military veterans association, all of those that have served in South Korea. And the other one is an association that is trying to bring together, adoptees and also and other people that are generally interested in Swedish Korean relations. So, I've come across people because of being invited to hold presentations for these associations. And there was also a rather interesting event, 2023, the anniversary of the Armistice Agreement. And there was during the Korean War, there was a Swedish field hospital or a Swedish military hospital in Busan.
Okay.
And in to honor the anniversary, they made a film about the hospital and the people serving in the hospital. And that film was released in 2023, and it made quite a significant impact because it was also viewed on national TV and not just as a broadcasted in cinemas. So I think that because they had interviewed people that served in the hospital, and also some of the patients that was treated at the hospital during the war. And so there is, so I think that also contributed to this kind of a little bit of surge in interest and understanding of Swedish South Korean relation and a general interest in South Korean issues.
Definitely, I have to watch this documentary or like the movie, and this would have been interesting and also like very informative as well. And I was wondering, like also like Korea this year, Korea has been also very in turmoil of politically and cultural changes. Like, how have you recent political change, for example, like related to such as like impeachment, leadership change, and democratic movement? You have probably like well informed. How do you think recent political development in Korea like has been affected Swedish's public view of Korea, or like broadcast company, how they like broadcast about like these political matters?
I would say that I think it was with rather astonishment that Swedes in general received the information on the 3 December martial law declaration. I think that was not it was not at all positively received. It was, a remnants of military dictatorship during General Park and what happens previously in the 1980s with the with all the demonstrations and things. So I think it was a big shock, to be honest. But it also it kind of it didn't stay with the public. If I try to understand the public, because you seldom read about it in the news nowadays, and I think it one of the reasons why it didn't really stay with the public as an issue is because of the war in Ukraine. So I mean, generally speaking, South Korea is far away.
Yeah, definitely.
And because we have this really, really difficult situation with the war in Ukraine and also with the war in Gaza, I think that has kind of consumed all the media attention. There was a hype, of course, just after 3 December and maybe a couple of months. But once the demonstrations was over and you managed to elect a new president, the issues surrounding the martial law and all the, let's say, the consequences that has kind of subsided.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only the people like myself, with a genuine research interest that keeps following on all the legal issues that are still ongoing in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, yes.
but I think it was a big surprise, a negative surprise, and I don't think people at all had kind of contemplating and thought about South Korea once more, almost becoming a military dictatorship. So that was kind of, and I also, there is another issue related to why South Korea is being receiving attention, and that is because of the North Korean soldiers supporting Russia.
Yes, yes.
So that also impact that we continue talking about the situation on the Korean Peninsula, but maybe now it's more about North Korea. But as you may understand, when we talk about North Korea, it's always very easy that you also talk about, well, how does this impact South Korea? So it kind of generates an interest and an awareness on the situation of the Korean Peninsula because of the war in Ukraine and the North Korean support to Russia.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, like probably like we have to go to the like more future aspect, how we can actually grow the Korea's image and then presence in Sweden. For example, like from your perspective, what might be the main challenge or opportunity for Korea's image in Sweden in the near future? How can Korea's government develop the better image presence in Sweden, maybe, if you have any idea?
Yeah, I mean, you are, I think, continue to the continuation of, let's say, all these soft power things about drama, film, literature, etc., and including, let's say, e-gaming and these kind of things, it's kind of benefiting you. But I think one of the, if I try to look forward, one of the really challenging thing for you in order, if South Korea wants to continue promoting your country in Sweden, is your extreme relationship with United States. And because of what the United States has become. So I think that will limit your or it will limit South Korea's possibility to kind of increase its relations with Europe, its relations with Sweden, and generally speaking, to further promote the positive, a more positive view on South Korea, because the way United States is developing, and you being one of the countries that is extremely dependent and continue to be. So as long as you continue to be a very pro-US country, I think that will limit
Yes. Yeah,
limit
that must be the South Korea's positionality in international politics might also limit the positionality in relationship with European countries as well, because also they do have their own positionality in the international politics wise.
Yeah. And I think also to be honest, if I say if because I don't know, but if South Korea would start articulating seriously to develop nuclear weapons, that will have a negative effect on your relations with Sweden and the perception of South Korea among the Swedish population.
Yeah, definitely. Like so far, like South Korea has been well imaged as a democratic country and economically well developed over the like 3-4 decades so far. But Yes, this positionality, like our current government should deal with and figure out like very well, and but more like under like practical level, like if we like reach to the practical level, how could our cultural cooperation between Korea and Swedish government, and it can be strengthened in a realistical level. Maybe like the soft power and K-pop might be like very important, but how can Korean government actually reach to the Swedish public or Swedish government in daily life level? Any practical like suggestion you have?
I I think you're doing. I think you're already already doing a good job when it comes to, let's say, promote the importance and value and opportunities when it comes to soft power and culture exchange, those kind of things. So so that's one, and I would say including sports, because there are, you know, you are a great nation when it comes to table tennis. Sweden is a great nation when it comes to table tennis. So there is some kind of link on the sports side as well. Women's soccer,
Yeah.
women's golf, golf in general. I mean, there are some interesting linkages when it comes, and I would kind of package that in this frame of soft power. So there are some
Yes.
things where you can. I think it would. I think there is a limit on how much you can leverage it. There is still this creates a very, generally speaking, a very positive view in Sweden among people in general about South Korea, and maybe we shouldn't underestimate another aspect as well, and that's, I mean, in my view, South Korea is viewed as a very innovative country. I mean, with some of the major companies that you have, especially on the digital side, like Samsung, SK, Hynix, LG. I mean, the products they do is something that is very commonly available here. I mean, if you go to any kind of shop that sells household appliances, digital things, computers, cell phones, you will always find Samsung and LG. So there is maybe a little bit of opportunity to increase, say, business ties in Sweden and South Korea, especially when it comes to, you know, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, ship making, green transition, all these kind of things. I think that's where I can see a little bit of an opportunity to increase cooperation, but it's very dependent on how much you continue to prioritize your relationship and cooperation with US. Because I mean, US is more and more considered to be a difficult country with all the restrictions, tariffs, unpredictability, domestic focus. I mean, there are so many critical issues being asked about where is United States heading, and also if your industry is seriously dependent on US components and US licensing, that will impact how far you can, I think, and how far you can leverage an increased cooperation with not only Sweden, but I would say Europe in general. And this goes for defense industry as well, where you have been very successful.
Thank you so much. Like probably we have to get to the final question. And just finally, is there anything else you would like to add that you feel is important for your understanding how Swedes perceive Korea today? This is last comment you could add up, maybe.
No, I think we have managed to cover most of what, at least what I see are relevant issues. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Engman. And this has been truly insightful conversation. Your perspective will be invaluable for our research. Thank you.